Hi there, welcome, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Jason Scholder, and this is Learning to Fail. People are complicated, and I know a lot of complicated people. My guest for this episode is yoga teacher and physical therapist Ryan Conrad. He died yesterday. I haven't fully processed this loss. This morning I joined a group of close friends on his porch, gathered in silence, waiting for his body to be transferred out of the house and into a hearse. Vedic ragas filled his home with transcendent primordial sound, easing the soul's transition from embodiment onward toward whatever comes next. Through the glass door you could see his body, frail and dressed in white, bald from the chemo and stiff with rigor mortis. He looked beautiful, wise, and at peace. Ryan died way too young, but surrounded by people he loved. I'm aware that might sound cliche, but when you witness it firsthand, you realize it's not. Ryan was a uniquely wonderful being. He touched many people's lives. Some of those people showed up to see his body for the last time. He leaves behind a young wife and a 2-year-old son. I can't even imagine what this boy will grow up to be like, but if he's anything like his father, the world has a wonderful gift coming. While waiting for Ryan's body to be removed, all I could see were his feet. They were the feet of a yogi. As they wheeled his physical body onto the porch and away, we all joined together in an a cappella version of Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, the only gospel song I know. This is a special episode, and I don't feel comfortable soiling it by petitioning donations for Learning to Fail. However, there's a college fund set up for Ryan's son, Harper Reid. Details can be found on our website, learningtofailpodcast.com, on the episode page dedicated to Ryan. If you feel inspired to donate after hearing this conversation, please consider contributing to Harper's College Fund. This was an exceptionally profound interview for me. Ryan was someone who loved life, and that comes through beautifully during our talk. I miss him already, but knowing I can revisit one of the most enjoyable discussions I've ever had with anybody gives me something meaningful I can return to when I need it. And on that note, let's get into my conversation with Ryan.
It kind of bit me in the ass when I moved here because I thought that everyone was disconnected until I started dating everyone in town.
That's one way to find out who knows each other.
Realized that everybody was completely connected. And it took me about 4 months to discover, oh wait, you all know each other.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
I had an experience like that one time where I was set up with this woman,
Uh-huh.
I was introduced or whatever, and we went out and we went out a couple times, and I thought I thought it was going better than it was, which is an easy way to feel.
Yeah.
And but there was one day where I was before we'd actually met, where I was Facebook messaging her.
Uh-huh.
And then this other woman who I'd met at a party, who I wasn't sure if I was interested in or not, but she was totally cool.
Yeah.
She and I had made plans to hang out, but it took, I don't know, 5 weeks between meeting her and when we were going to actually get together.
Yeah.
And it ended up that was going to be the same weekend. My date that I was supposed to have was on a Friday. And then this other one that I'd been kind of, working on for 5 weeks was happening on Sunday.
Right.
And there was a moment where I was Facebook messaging both of them simultaneously and caught myself saying things that were kind of similar.
Yeah.
And then, but I had noticed that they are Facebook friends.
Yeah.
And occasionally one would post the other's whatever,
Right.
promote the other's event or something like that. So when the shit went down and it, fell apart, which is always the case for me, and it's always dramatic, unnecessarily dramatic, the woman who I'd been set up with was sort of like, well, I wasn't under the impression that we were exclusive or anything, you
Right.
know? I mean, I figured you were dating other people because you went on a date with a really good friend of mine. And I was just like,
Yeah, right.
oh, never again, man.
Well, and I moved here in '99, and so this was pre like Friendster, like
Oh, right,
and
yeah.
pre MySpace and of course Facebook, and so like I feel like doing that sort of like interlinking and connecting is something that's possible now that just
Oh, yeah,
wasn't at all possible then.
yeah,
So I mean, now you can see like, oh, okay, this person's off because they like have 8 people that I've dated on their friends list,
right.
or anything like that, where before it was just like mysterious. I saw this great photo of a fish festival, like that I was actually at in like the late '90s, the info board, the message board, was just like covered, and it's everybody like trying to like hook up with people to like sell them drugs or like have sex or like whatever it
Really?
was, and it was just like plastered with things, and it was basically our cell phones. I mean, this message
But it was
board,
right. But
it
now
was
it's
just
super
little
public.
message,
Yeah.
messages, and just posted up there, and it was like, wow, this is crazy, because I was resistant to get a cell phone for a really long time. Like,
Oh, really?
I didn't, yeah, I was actually one of the latter, kind of holdouts, like the Amish, like, phone people, and where I was just like, nope, I just want a house line. And then the floodgates kind of broke open, and then I hopped on board, but it took a while.
Yeah, I got a phone as soon as it was affordable,
Yeah.
in air quotes, because it was like $75 for 400 minutes. And at
Yeah.
the time, that
Yeah.
was a steal,
Yeah. Right.
And it was like they would charge you by the minute, and it was a counter on
Uh-huh.
how many minutes. And I'd be talking to someone, I'd be like trying to wrap it up before the next minute. And then if I didn't wrap it up, I'd be like, well, fuck it, we got another minute.
Yeah,
We'll
we
just
got a
keep
minute. We'll
talking. And
just
then
keep
like
on. Go
the
ahead.
next minute, I'd be trying to wrap up. And usually they're in the middle of a sentence and you can't cut them off. I'm like, man, this call is costing me a fortune,
Yeah.
And invariably you end up getting off the phone like 5 seconds after
Yeah.
it
It
clicks onto
flips
the next
over.
minute,
Yeah.
So I have kind of the same phenomenon about buying gas. My
Uh-huh.
my father is just ridiculous about gas. I mean, my dad will spend money.
Driving somewhere to get
Yeah,
cheaper
he'll
gas.
like
Like,
when my parents got divorced, my
yeah.
mother's biggest thing about being divorced was like, I finally won't have to drive across town to save a nickel a gallon on gas.
Right.
Like that
Yeah.
was her main motivation for getting out of the marriage. And so I have inherited this neurosis from my father. And
You
what
do it, huh?
happens, oh, I totally do it. I don't do it. Well, okay, here's the thing. I don't quite do that, but I make note of where gas is inexpensive.
Yeah, sure.
And so I try to
To
get it at those places when I can. But what invariably happens is I run out of gas in front of the most expensive gas station
Yeah,
around and
exactly.
end up
The one
paying
over by Biltmore for
whichever
Biltmore. Yeah,
one,
right, exactly.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter what town I'm in.
Yeah.
Like this has
You
happened to
will be
me.
in front of the
Yeah.
really expensive gas
Yeah, I mean, I
station.
physically ran out of gas twice in LA, and in a truck filled with furniture that I was delivering. I like rolled off the highway, and then the guy who was working for me had to jump out and push the car. And one time it happened when I was alone. I don't remember. Somehow I got into a gas station. I mean, there's always people around to help in LA, but oh my God,
Yeah.
what a mess.
I took it was a sustainable development class, and the teacher was it was a we had this component on sustainable transportation, and he was like, the best way to save gas is only fill your gas tank up halfway, because the extra weight from the rest of the more your car weighs, the less energy efficient it is.
Okay.
So he would only fill it up halfway, because he was convinced that if you only fill it up, you lose 120 pounds worth, basically another passenger.
Right.
So you become all this more energy efficient if you only fill your car up halfway. And,
I don't know if I believe that.
No,
With the amount of times that you like have to go get gas now because you're out.
He was adamant about it, but
Yeah.
I don't do it.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
would
something that
never do
always
that.
stuck with me, and
Yeah.
at least crosses my mind.
I have a friend who has the opposite phenomenon where he never wants to have less than half a tank of gas in
Yeah.
his car.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm like, dude, you're you live in a town where if you drive 20 minutes, you've left town. Like you're never more
Right.
than 3 minutes from
Yeah,
a gas station.
exactly.
That's
You might as well have an
insanity.
electric car
Yeah.
that you can just like plug in
Yeah, so
wherever
you can
you
plug
go.
it in at Earth Fair and
Yeah.
wherever the 4 places that you
Yeah,
go.
you go and go. Right,
All of which are
exactly.
next to a gas station.
Right.
So, yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, man, we've all got our craziness. That is
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I've got my quirks.
Yeah. What's your
Yeah.
favorite quirk about yourself? Okay, let me rephrase it. What's your wife's? Well, if I were to ask her, what's your favorite quirk about Ryan, what would it be?
You know, I get pretty OCD. Like the house doesn't have to be completely spotless or clean necessarily, but organized, because the way in which my brain works, if if things aren't with like things, and preferably color coded, like I kind of lose my mind a little bit in my organizational process, and it pisses me off when I lose things really badly, and so I become very, like, not to the point where I have to like touch the light switch 5 times or whatever, but like
Right.
OCD, like about, things being with like things. And so, I mean, we'll be doing something completely different, completely off base, and I will just have to stop and like organize things, to this place where, we filmed this dog food commercial over our house, and like the guy comes over and he's like, we should probably mess up the house a little bit so it looks like more like somebody
Not
lives
my
here.
house. You
And
picked
I'm
the wrong
like, yeah,
house, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what it looks like when I live here.
Yeah, exactly. This was not for you guys. This is like for my sanity.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. It might look like someone else lives here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. My daughter is very organized, which is so great for me
Yeah.
because I'm super organized. I don't know. I'm personally clean. My personal hygiene's good and all that stuff. But my house, I think it always looks a little bit cleaner than it is,
Uh-huh.
and because I don't deep clean, like
Yeah.
I just don't do that.
Yeah.
I was spoiled. I was raised with housekeepers, not like live-in maids, but just
Sure.
someone who comes in every couple weeks and cleans. So I just think that's normal. So I do that, but I can't quite afford every couple weeks.
Right.
So my house is as clean as I can afford for it to be.
Yeah.
In addition to the fact that there's certain things I just refuse to deal with. So anyway, but my daughter has really become organized, and like she'll go into all the cabinets and reorganize everything.
That's
Or
beautiful.
or the fridge. I don't love the fridge because then it's open for half an
Yeah,
hour.
right, right.
But I'll be like, Sula, what have I told you about the fridge? She's like, Daddy, I'm organizing. I'm like, okay. That's all she has to say.
Yeah.
It's like she could say, but Daddy, I love you. But Daddy, I'm organizing.
Yeah.
Same
The
effect.
same perfect thing. Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to my mom actually, because my mom lives with us now, which is, this kind of strange thing at 37 to have my mom living there at the house with us. And she was talking about me cleaning up my, they made me clean up my toy room. And I went, that she went in, and from her explanation of this, basically I'd set up this whole like museum display of all of my
Right.
toys, set them up in like war scenes and everything, and and everything was immaculate, but just completely set up in this huge display of everything that I owned.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and that was me at like 4 years old or something. So it's definitely something that's been
It goes way
super
back.
ingrained.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know I don't know if this is part of the same gene, but when I was, I don't know, pretty young, 4 or 5, my grandparents, who were from Switzerland, showed up with literally like a trunk full of Legos, just loose Legos, like they just
That sounds like a
gone
nightmare
to
to
every
me.
Goodwill in town and just thrown the Legos in one
Right.
box, And I used to build these like little mini warehouses. I would just build these rectangles, and I was really into making them structurally strong. I was into crossing the Legos,
Uh-huh.
like, and my grandfather was just looked at it and he's like, not very creative, is he? And so, but I don't know. I mean, like, I really wonder what that was about.
Yeah.
I mean, my family was falling apart. Was I trying to create stability? Like,
Yeah, sure.
I've looked back on it and tried to
Yeah.
think, like, what was that? Because I was always really interested in what would hold it together.
Yeah.
and I wasn't paying that much attention to what it looked like. Although to me it was fine. Like
Right.
it was very much about like the perfection of it.
On my wife and I's first date, well, it was maybe our second or third, I cleaned her kitchen.
No wonder she married you.
Yeah, I know.
That's gonna go either way.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly, right.
Yeah.
I know. In retrospect, it definitely could have gone either way. It could have gone really poorly or really good, and thankfully it went good.
Yeah.
But like her mom came over while I was cleaning her kitchen, and
She
like,
probably texted her.
yeah, exactly.
Mom, you gotta see this.
Yeah, right.
This
I
is
got this guy. He's like,
just tell me, like, should I
yeah.
end it or
Yeah,
marry him?
we haven't slept together yet,
Right.
but
It's not too late to get
yeah,
out.
Exactly. So,
Oh Lord.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if I took you up to my closet, all of my clothes, I have all these different color hangers,
Uh-huh.
not on purpose, only because whenever I would go back to the store, I couldn't find the same
Yeah.
thickness hanger and the same
Sure.
color, and it drives me crazy. And the other thing that drives me crazy is they used to make these thin plastic
Oh, yeah.
hangers and these thick plastic hangers, and now they've gone with just the middle of the road plastic hanger. And it's not quite heavy duty enough for like jeans and heavy
Yeah.
stuff, and it's way too heavy duty
You
for a
need wood,
t-shirt,
man.
you know.
Yeah.
So need wood hangers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't afford wood
Yeah.
hangers. Um,
That's where I hang all my nice clothes.
Yeah,
I've got
we have
like my hierarchy of clothes.
your hierarchy of clothes. Let's go on the wood
yeah,
ones.
exactly.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, all my winter clothes,
Yeah.
like the hall
Right.
closet that
Yeah.
where guests put things, those
Yeah.
are all wooden
Those
hangers.
get wooden. Yeah.
But the bedroom, no.
Yeah.
But you know, my
I've
work
gotten
clothes.
rid of all the wire. So
yeah, no, I don't have any
Yeah,
wire hangers.
yeah.
Please,
yeah.
please. But my like work clothes are on one color, and my other t-shirts that I wear, like this one, which is a casual that I'd wear, it's still clean basically, and not ripped, that's on a different color hanger. And then like my short sleeve button downs are on one color, my long sleeve button downs are another color, just because since I have them all,
Yeah.
I feel the need to have it mean something.
Yeah. Well, it's strange because, I'm basically newly retired at 37, and so I don't have any sort of delineation of clothes anymore.
Everything everything is
everything is
casual.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's really there's very few things that I have to like dress up for or like wear specific clothes for. And I mean, one of the things about physical therapy that like kind of drove me nuts is the khakis and polos that
Right,
like
right.
is kind of the status quo to wear. And I kind of escaped that and skirted around it for the most part. But like you look at my closet and they're like, okay, that's the clothes that you don't mind getting shit on or puked on or like, some
Oh,
other
right,
thing.
because
Because
that's what
I
happens
work,
there.
yeah, because I work in a hospital and so, I mean it's rough. You're working with people who have, no continence. You're working with people with cognitive issues. You're working with people who've maybe been in bed for a month or two and things like that, and
Wow.
you're getting up close and personal like in their business. And so this whole like section of clothing for me, I'm not quite ready to throw it away yet, but it'll be a good day when it does go away.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know
So like
because it's like I just have to like get rid of like all this like stuff, but like for the most part I just go out and I can wear shorts and t-shirt pretty
Yeah.
much everywhere I want to go.
I mean, knowing you, as I don't know you that well, but I feel like you got dressed up for me.
Oh, thanks.
You look pretty good.
Thanks. I mean, this is what I wore to go over to the tea shop.
Well, yeah. So
But
you're out in public. You got your out in public clothes.
Yeah, I've got my out of public
Right,
clothes.
yeah.
I've noticed though, being a yoga teacher, I've got a healthy selection of short shorts.
Right.
And I've started wearing those out in public.
Like
at
your
which
young guard diaper shorts.
no, not the Angar diapers. I don't wear those, but I'll wear like track shorts,
Oh
with
my
like
God, I haven't.
with like the mesh netting for my balls and like, and like it only comes down like a quarter of the way down my thigh. And I'm just like, well, this is what you get, people.
Oh man,
Especially
that's
like on
funny.
the days after chemo where, I've got like those 4 or 5 just shit days after chemo where, things are bad, and I don't really get out of bed much. And when I do, and I went to the Thursday night horror film the other week because the local movie reviewer Ken Hankey passed away.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, COPD, and he was only in his 60s, and just a brilliant guy.
What is COPD?
You asked. It's basically a congestion of the lungs that doesn't allow you to breathe.
Is it like a
and-
sudden death, like a heart attack, or is
no,
it a slow,
no, it's
awful?
slow. I mean, you put somebody on supplemental oxygen, and then basically over the course of months or years, they kind of slowly suffocate, and just continue to up the amount of oxygen that they're on, and you lose the ability to do a lot of cardiovascular stuff. And he was a longtime smoker and movie watcher. I
Right,
mean, that's what he did.
yeah,
Yeah,
he-
he watched movies
and not on a treadmill.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
and he's a brilliant guy. Like, he wrote a great book about Tim Burton, another one about director Kim Russell. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but and then also this great horror film companion book that was in pretty wide distribution. And he, he really he was a local treasure.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, his reviews were always, if I didn't agree with them, at least insightful. And so he passed away last week, and it was right after my chemo. It was like the day that I went in for chemo. I saw that he passed away, and so the next day they had Thursday night horror films that he organized and stuff. And it's everything from new horror to Bride of Frankenstein and the classic stuff. And so I just wanted to really go out, and it was kind of a big deal because, like I said, I go in for chemo every other Wednesday, and from Wednesday until Sunday, I'm basically in bed. But a friend of mine came over and picked me up, and like we went down, and it was really one of the first times that during that window of things that I was able to get out. But basically what I did was I went in there in like my pajamas and like fell asleep and during the whole movie.
Oh, really? Yeah, but you were
it's
there for it. I mean, it's
it's like King of the Zombies, like
Yeah.
slow black and white, like semi-racist horror film from like well, not semi, it was pretty racist, like but it was fall asleep and and do that in the theater. So I've kind of lost some shame. I'm not. I don't
Well-
have any concept of shame anymore. I'll just pop in my pajamas and watch a movie in movie theater with 20 other people.
Well, I
which,
think that's funny. I mean, I think as I think about it, like I just pulling together the things that just came out of your mouth, like older people,
Yeah.
they have no concept of shame. Usually a little racist.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
those two things somehow,
Right.
they can go together in a way. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I also feel like, given what you're going through, I mean, for you to be able to get out and feel a part of an activity, even if you fall asleep in it,
Yeah.
that's invaluable for you.
It's completely fine.
Yeah.
I don't really make real concrete just plans anymore. I make
Yeah.
intentions, and when I get to that moment, everybody that I have plans with, we have basically an ongoing agreement that I could call 10 minutes before and be like, I'm down and out.
Yeah.
I can't do this. And I mean, we've been fairly active throughout this chemo process, and just basically when I'm down, I'm down.
Right.
I just mark those days off the calendar.
Yeah.
And then, I generally that Sunday get better, and then kind of crawl back up to semi-normal, whatever normal means to me right now. It's not
Right.
like normal before all this happened, but it's decent. It's a decent quality of life where I can hang out with my son. I can do things. I can, go on dates with my wife. We can go out on walks and do stuff, go out to dinner and things. And so for me right now, that week to 9 days of semi-normal is worth the bad,
Yeah.
and I kind of have markers in my brain of like, I really didn't want to go the chemo route with this initially. The things when I got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, like the things that I did not want were to get a chest port and get on IV and get on IV chemo.
Right.
That those were two like kind of big things to me. And since, since things have gone the way that they've gone, I've kind of had to let go of those things and be like, okay, well, and I didn't have to, but I chose to.
Right.
Because I do know that there are other directions that I can go, and there's a lot of other people who choose to go those other directions. But where I'm at in my life with my relationship to my 10-month-old son and my wife, I I feel like chemo was really the option, and supplement it with other things, that surround it: acupuncture, my yoga practice, diet.
Right.
Everybody, like, I mean, if you ever like need weed, you just like tell people you have cancer, and it
And
just
then,
like comes flooding in. It's like
yeah.
1995 Grateful Dead tour over my house right now. I mean, it's insane. Like,
We won't give out your address.
yeah, exactly. Please don't. But I mean, it's nuts. Like, and people are very generous
Yeah.
with their ideas of what you should be doing and everything of that nature,
Uh,
and which, I'm thankful for in some aspects, and I always thank them, and I'll hear them
yeah.
out because I'm interested.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm part of Western medicine as a physical therapist. I don't really think that there's some evil scientist behind a curtain somewhere who is, trying to kill all of us cancer patients with chemo. I
Right.
think that
Yeah.
there's been a long process of trials and errors and treatment protocols and things that have gotten us to where we are now with it. And it's far from perfect. I mean, it's not figured out yet.
Right.
But at the same time, it seems like, my oncologists believe that the chemo is the best way to go. And I think about it like this: if somebody comes to me for low back pain, and I went and got my doctorate and and physical therapy, and we spend time together, and I'm like, you need to do this, this, and this. And they're like, well, yeah, but the guy who's pumping my gas told me,
Right.
I I need to do this other thing. I
Yeah.
think I'm going to go with the guy pumping my gas. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the oncologist, like, they don't know everything, but they go to school for a really long time and study the options. And I think, my oncologists truly do give a shit about me.
Right.
Like, my oncologist at Duke is this wonderful Indian lady who studies at Yogaville,
Oh,
under,
cool.
and studied directly under Swami Satchidananda for a long period of time, and is just a really, beautiful and caring person who is a new mom. So, we have all these kind of parallels. And I mean, she cries at my oncology appointments more than I cry.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, she cares, and I
Hmm.
don't think that she would, intentionally steer me in a way that would be negative towards me.
Right.
Um, so, yeah, I know I kind of got off on a tangent there, and I don't even know where we started, but it's something that if I would have if I would have been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at a different point in my life, I probably would have just bought a, year-long unlimited plane ticket where you can fly from place to place around the globe.
Right.
But now, being a, fairly newly married, husband of 4 years, and having a 10-month-old baby and whatnot, it's there's nothing I could imagine doing that would be greater than walking around West Asheville with my son on my chest, and like, and
Yeah.
doing that. And it's such a different phase of life. And also too, if this would have happened, I mean, we've had all this amazing fundraising surrounding us. uh I don't I don't know that I probably would have inspired people to donate over
Yeah. Right. If
$150,000
you were gonna
to
fly
my
around the
cause.
world.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I don't know if I was at a much different place at a different point in my life. And about 10 years ago, in 1999, I moved to Asheville, and I think that was really the biggest first step, is like having community and accountability, and figuring out how to stop shitting where you eat, and like, develop relationships, and and having this sense of responsibility and accountability. And I think that before that, I was pretty transient, and I would just go from place to place. And when, somewhere didn't feel right, I just figured it was the place. It wasn't me,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
And a
And
lot of places didn't feel right.
yeah, right, exactly, right. I'm moving a whole
What's
bunch.
wrong with this world?
Yeah, right,
I'm
exactly,
fine.
right, right. And so, I came here, and this is, for the most part, been home base since 1999. And so I think with that in combination of developing a life that has been focused around service, and then combination of that with developing my relationship with Brooke and who she is to this community, and being where we're at with parenthood and everything else, there's something that you know has connected with people, whether it's people we've known for decades or people we've never met,
Right.
that has inspired people to really give towards our situation. And I think that this time and our life is really just super strange. I mean, there's so much going on. And we basically we had our son
Right.
in last August, and then after having him, we had 3 months of parenthood without cancer.
Right.
And I don't even really remember those three
Right. Yeah.
months.
Well, you're
You
sleep
know,
deprived for those 3 months anyway. I mean,
yeah,
they're a tough
exactly.
time
For
in the
sure.
best of times.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and he was born. Our son was born with, he was tongue tied.
Oh,
So
yeah, right. I remember
so
that. Yeah.
his frenulum that connects the bottom of the tongue to the bottom of the mouth, it extended all the way to the end of his mouth. And then the other one up underneath his lip, between his upper lip and his gum, was connected as well. So he didn't really breastfeed for a while. And so we had to go through this really crazy, more my wife than me, but I was still, with this. But they snipped it, and it helped. But then they had to go in with a laser and actually cut it more, because there's like a superficial frenulum and then a deep frenulum. So they got the superficial one just with snips, but then they had to go in and do another surgery. And so for that time period, he wasn't feeding at all. He wasn't able to pull milk. So not only did that, like, drop him down below kind of weight levels and things, but also my wife's production dropped,
Right.
because it's a supply and demand
course,
type
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So we started talking to breastfeeding consultants, and they put us on this crazy 24-hour, every 2-hour pump and feed schedule,
Right.
which took about 45 minutes to pump and feed each time. So, 24 hours a day, we were just pumping and feeding, pumping and feeding, pumping and feeding.
Ugh,
And
man.
yeah, it was insane. It
Yeah.
was crazy. And so, that was a lot of those first 3 months. And then, all this changed. And the way in which this changed was basically around Thanksgiving time. I didn't shit for 10 days. And which was completely uncharacteristic, like just a weird thing to
Sure,
happen to
yeah.
me, like, and I was getting like doubled over at night, couldn't, all my abdomen was just like crushing. It was awful. And so, I went and saw the doctor. He put me on like Miralax and stool softeners and blew it out, and like everything got good for about 4 days. I actually went down and did my Iyengar yoga certification during those 4 days,
Oh,
where it was
wow.
good.
Right. I remember. Yeah. You're like, I got to do this.
Yeah, and I debated for a while.
Yeah.
I was like, if I'm in this shape, I'm not going to go down and do this.
Right.
But it gave me that window of time to go down and do my certification. And then I came back, and actually on the plane ride back, like I started having some cramps again. I was like, oh no. And so sure enough, it, kind of ramped back up, and I went and saw my doctor, and he was like, yeah, this is strange. We should get you a CT scan. And so we went in, got a CT scan, and that's when they found the pancreatic cancer. And I actually just had a fundraiser the other day that some friends of mine put together, and my doctor, who told me I had cancer, was in this band and playing guitar up on stage.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
cool. Only in Asheville would your doctor also be in a band.
also be in a band. That was actually really good.
Then a good band. Well, that's the unusual part.
Right, exactly.
Everyone here plays an instrument.
Yeah, not well.
So.
Yeah. and so it was just it was a surreal thing to like look up on stage and watch somebody who like, 6 months earlier just told me I had pancreatic cancer, like,
rocking out.
yeah, exactly. And he told me actually at the bar, he was, that they had the fundraiser. He was like, that was the hardest thing that I've ever had to do is tell you that you had pancreatic cancer, in my professional life. And it was just like this kind of crazy emotional thing, and for him. And I understand that, because in my realm as a PT, there's times when like I have to tell spinal cord injury patients that they're never going to walk again, and other components like that, of like hard, honest truths that aren't easy and suck.
Mm.
And it's so strange being on the other side of that
Right.
news, and I feel like, and it's such a different thing, and it was strange to watch him kind of go through his process and his whole experience of
Right.
of telling me that I had pancreatic cancer, and be able to identify with that as a medical practitioner, and realize, yeah, I've done that with a lot of people, and it sucks. It's terrible,
Right.
I've just never been on that other side of it. So, yeah, so basically, continued to go, this route, and ended up going to Duke for a long period of time for radiation and chemo, and it was, it was pretty rough, but they were getting me ready for going in and doing this Whipple procedure, where they, take out the head of the pancreas that has the tumor, the gallbladder, the bottom third of the stomach, and the first foot of intestines, and then they piece you all back together again. And so, when we went to Duke, like, we decided we were going to go with those guys, just because they do more volume of that surgery, and plus everything was really integrated. Like, here we went and saw an oncological surgeon, and like he was like, okay, we'll get you a scan, so or we'll go in and unblock the bile duct, because the tumor was blocking the duct that like drains everything out of the liver and the gallbladder and the pancreas into the intestine. And that's why I was constipated, is because none of those digestive enzymes were getting down into the intestine. And so I was like turning yellow, in pain, still not shitting, and just like, it was rough.
Yeah.
And they were going to schedule me here in town for an appointment in January. It was right before Christmas, and it was going to be like January 7th, before they were going to get me in to do the biopsy and place the stent so that I could get back to normal. We went to Duke on the 23rd, and they had me in on Christmas Eve, and like on the table, like, place the stent, got the biopsy, and we were like, okay, you're our guys, we're going to go with you guys.
Right.
And so, we started this whole process of working with Duke, which, I'm happy about. But it was moving towards doing the surgery, getting rid of the cancer, and being cancer free.
Right. Right.
And so, we went all that route, did the surgery. I recovered decent. I mean, they said that there were some anatomical changes, because when they went in to actually access the tumor, the the radiation had caused some scar tissue. So they had to go way down, like below my belly button. So I have a 14-inch incision, from below my belly button to my lower sternum, where they had to like take all my intestines out, put it on my shoulder, access the pancreas from down below, cut it out, take everything out, put it all back together, and then put the intestines back in, which is weird, because, in my yoga practice, I can feel where they didn't put the intestines in the same way that it was
Oh my
before.
God.
I mean, there's this really weird, visceral type of experience with my practice now, where I'm like, yeah, that does not feel the same way. And I mean, and I've got additional space too, just
Right.
because, they took a whole bunch of stuff out. So,
It's amazing. Is there like a video of that whole thing?
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, not of mine, but of somebody's on YouTube. If you ever have to have the surgery, I would suggest not watching it
Not watching
before.
it, okay. Yeah.
But just academically, sure, give it a watch. I mean, it's intense. It was 10 hours.
Yeah.
It was 10 hours, and I was in the hospital for about a week, which was half to a third of the time that normally people were in there. Because, I mean, I'm kind of the unicorn of pancreatic cancer. It seems like everybody who seems to get pancreatic cancer are older,
Right.
have a huge list of comorbidities, and have been smoking and drinking and eating McDonald's for the last, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever. And here I am as somebody, who is fairly healthy. I mean, I've been vegan for, 20 years, do a daily yoga practice. I ride my bike to and from work.
Right.
I don't smoke or drink or do drugs, and like, and that's the only time I really get pissed off about this
Right.
whole thing is like when I see somebody who obviously like doesn't care or give a shit about like health or anything, and I'm like, yeah, those people might not have cancer,
Yeah,
it's
I
just
know.
I mean, I'm sure they have their own stuff that I wouldn't want to trade my situation for anyway, but it's there was definitely kind of a time period of this why me, like,
How could there not be? I
what the
mean,
fuck, like,
yeah.
why is this going on? And yeah, just getting over with that. But so, I had the surgery and recovered decent. I mean, it took me a while. They cut me up pretty well, and Western medicine's pretty brutal in a lot of ways. I mean, it's rough. It's not an easy way to go, but I recovered and got back to some sense of normal where like I was digesting food easily and I could get out and start doing stuff. And then I went back in for my follow-up CT scan just to like make sure everything looked good. And that's when they found the two new tumors in my liver. And so, they told me that. And so now it's no longer, stage 3 pancreatic cancer is stage 4, because now it's metastasized. And basically they were like, what we got for you is chemo, so I went
Right.
in, I debated about it for a while and, talked with my wife and we figured it out. And then I decided, okay, this is the good way to go. And well, it's not the good way to go, but it's the way that
Uh,
makes sense.
Sure. I understand what you mean
And
by good.
yeah, it just it after doing research and I mean the thing about a lot of the alternative approaches that people offer is that there may be some things that are really, really effective. And there might be some really great case studies surrounding that, and then there's, urban legends and folk tales and things like that. But a lot of these things that I'd really dig into, didn't really have all that great research to back it up.
Sure.
Chemo for all of its faults has a lot of research involved with it. And I know why, because chemo is big business and it, there's a lot of people who make a lot of money off of dying people in the realm of chemo.
Right.
But at the same time, it was interesting. We went in to like review my chemo drugs and talk about everything with my oncologist PA, and they I was reading over my 4-drug cocktail of chemo that I'm on currently, and 3 of those 4 drugs were like derived from roots. you
Oh,
know?
really?
Yeah. I mean, so they're these like, I mean, they're still synthetic,
Right.
but like the origin that they're pulling them from are roots, you know?
Oh, it's
And so
amazing.
like I just wonder like how many of the people who are like, telling me like don't do chemo, like, know that like these are actually kind of these weird pseudo, normal like things, these natural things that are derived, and put into this other context of chemo. And I have I kind of have my objective markers of when chemo's worth it and if it gets to a place where it's not. And I want to have at least as many good days as I have bad days.
Right.
And I want to be able to stay above 100 pounds, because
What's your weight now?
It fluctuates between like 129 and 135, 140, somewhere in there.
And what was it when you were healthy?
165.
And how tall are you?
5'10". So,
Okay.
so it's a situation where I think number one, they cut out they basically gave me a gastric bypass when they did the Whipple procedure. So my stomach's not as big. My appetite was really weird. My digestive system was like painful and just
Right.
like, kind of sucked for a while. And then, during the chemo, during those 4 or 5 down days, I don't really have much of an appetite or eat. Um, you know, Marijuana actually has helped with that quite a bit. The oncologist here in Asheville, actually, like 10 minutes into our first session, he was like, how do you feel about marijuana? Like, okay, I'll try it. And he was like, I'll write you the script for Marinol, which is a synthetic marijuana. But we live in Asheville. If you can get your hands on the real thing, it's more effective. And so, you know, what I found with a lot of the THC based, edibles and things like that is that it tends to really help with appetite, nausea, sleep, things of that sort. But the problem is it just makes me too high, which is, for some people a desirable thing. But for me, especially right now with everything I'm dealing with, what I find is that it kind of drops a 900-pound gorilla on my shoulders of the immensity of my situation. Because for the most part, as long as I'm sober and hanging out and stuff, I can deal with my situation, and I can break it down into kind of bite-sized, things to chew on and deal with things piece by piece.
Right.
But, the psychotropic effects of marijuana, which is, in some ways one of the beautiful things of it, is it's uninhibiting.
Right.
And it can be, like things that are probably good for me to focus on, but not good for me to dwell on,
Right.
for long periods of time. And it can just get really super heavy and depressing, to where normally, like, if I get to a place where I'm focusing on in a direction that's not good, I'll read a book or watch a Netflix show or a movie and or go on a walk or do my yoga practice or something else, and I can pretty much put things back on the shelf and focus on some other things and then come back to it when I'm in a better place. But with weed based stuff, what it is that that 900-pound gorilla like kind of follows me, and whether I'm reading a book or watching a show or walking or doing my practice, to where I can't just shove it back onto the shelf. So, what I've found works really well is the synthetic marijuana during the day to help with appetite and, everything. And I'm on it right now, and I can hang out and talk with you and like be fine.
I was gonna ask, but then I was like,
Yeah. And it's great.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm a little hungry right now, but other than
I
that,
can
we're
get
good. Yeah. But then at nighttime I do the real stuff where I can, I wait till I start getting tired, and then I take it and I just like sleep like a baby, which is great. So yeah, I'm an advocate of it, but for me, it's like when to use it and how to use it and everything. It's been tricky, but that's kind of where I'm at with things right now. Is I go back in for a follow-up CT scan on the 18th, and that'll kind of show whether or not this chemo regimen that I'm on right now is actually working. And so if it's working, we'll keep on going with the FOLFIRINOX the way that it is, this chemo regimen.
Right.
If it's not, then we'll look at other options. And there's other chemo cocktails. There's also a trial going on. It's a match trial where they would go in, do a biopsy of the tumors that I have, and see if there's a specific immunotherapy that would match to the tumors that I have. The nice thing about it is it seems like the side effects from immunotherapy is much less than chemo. Um, the only thing that we'll kind of have to see is, number one, is there a match between my tumor and the treatment? And then I would also have to stop the chemo for about 4 weeks to clear out my system prior to starting that. And so, if things are kind of running rampant in my system right now,
Going without chemo wouldn't be good, right?
yeah, exactly. So, um, you know, right now it's kind of a situation where I really I think that ultimately this is probably what's going to get me, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's this year, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, some complication, something involving this is going to be what takes me out. And you know, it kind of it is what it is. I I know the numbers with pancreatic cancer. The 5-year survival rate's like 8%. I mean, it's not good.
Right.
It's pretty shitty. Um, so basically, like, me living more than 18 months from now is me beating the odds. And so it's this, strange and new place. Um, I feel really thankful that I have this really long time of, number one, having free time
Right.
where, I can wake up in the morning, spend time with my son way more, spend time with my wife way more than I would if I was, doing my professional gig and working, full time at a hospital as a physical therapist and teaching yoga classes on the weekend and teaching, different workshops and things. And so I'm afforded all this time, and nobody expects anything of me, which is really kind of beautiful. I mean, um, I can I can wake up in the morning and, for the most part, do whatever my energy allows or do whatever I feel like I want to do. And it's a really interesting place to be, because this is the first time in my life really where I had a 10-year plan. I mean, I was married, had a baby, had a career, had a home that I bought, a new car that I bought. Like, I mean, I had this trajectory of things that I actually planned out. And I think for the most part, like, that trajectory, all things being stable, probably would have happened to the certain extent. And then, this thing comes along and just completely pulls the rug out. But at the same time, I have this opportunity to, number one, be really aware of my mortality, and and take advantage of time that I have with my family and time that I have just here, doing whatever it is that we're doing now even.
Yeah.
And it just as easily could have been that I could have been driving down the highway and gotten taken out by a semi truck trailer or something like that, and been here one day and gone the next. And so I have this relationship right now with people in general, and myself in general, where I don't really small talk with anybody anymore. I think it's one of the huge gifts of all this is there's really there's no small talking. I mean, people come to me with these, like, really beautiful and profound conversations about shit that really matters. And I mean, I can still small talk about the Cleveland Browns and stuff, but, like, which actually is kind of important to me.
Not that small.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, the Cavs winning.
Yeah, I was like, the Cavaliers just pulled an incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I like, cried with my, like,
took some joy in
friends,
that.
and,
Good,
like, I mean, it meant a lot, but at the same like, even conversations about basketball become really meaningful,
Right.
and things like that. But it's something where I get to be very, very aware of the clock ticking, and regardless of whether I'm here for, these next few months or 10 years from now, that's something that I don't think is going to fade.
Right.
Is this appreciation of life and presentness, and having this relationship with my son where what I'm focusing on right now, one of the reasons why I wanted to come in here and do this actually is because I feel like the more artifact that I can leave for him,
Right.
it's really important.
Yeah.
The more that he has referential type of things to who I was and insights into who I was is great in a way that, folks from our generation, I don't think had.
Right.
I was just talking to a friend the other day whose father passed away when they're really young, and they have a few pictures and stuff, and and some other brief VHS tapes and stuff like that, but nothing really tangible or where you really get to get a sense of like who that person was. And so, I'm really focused right now. I mean, this evening actually, I'm going to be meeting with a woman to help me write a legacy letter.
Mm.
And something that something that could be read at my funeral if it comes to that, something, and then another letter that I can write to my son, and just helping me kind of organize my thoughts and how to process and do that. And this whole concept of like leaving breadcrumbs and being able to put things out there in the world where if he's interested in like knowing like who his dad was, that he can get a good sense of that. And and I think that comes in a lot of forms. My cousin came over from Ohio, and we spent some time together, and we did like a 2-hour interview, and a lot of it was based on like he and I's experiences together and
Right.
talking about those. And then everything from the freaking Purina One dog food commercial that we, did that like, has like 3 minutes of footage of like me and the dogs running around fields and stuff and talking on, camera and whatnot. And then, recordings of me teaching my yoga classes and other things I've started actually thinking about if I'm not here, who would I want to teach like Harper to do different things if he shows inclinations towards them? So, who would I want to like teach him how to throw a baseball?
Right.
Who would I want to like teach him how to surf if he wants to? Or like, or if he shows inclinations towards woodworking or like whatever.
Right.
I'm just kind of like making those lists and actually reaching out to people and being like, hey, if this is what happens, will you step up and do these things if he like needs that?
Right.
Because it's an intimidating thing. I don't really feel all that much fear of dying, in all honesty. The process of fundraising and seeing all these names and messages and phone conversations with people whose lives I've come in contact in one way or another has really helped diminish this like fear of, oh man, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have lived, in this way or done these certain things. And it's been really, really great to be able to just reflect upon life and realize like, yeah, I lived a good one. Like there were a lot of things that I did, I feel like I lived a really healthy balance between hedonism and serving, to where like, I feel like I got like, a lot of that stuff out of the way and then was able to like, do good things with the perspectives that I had because of it. And so it's not like, it's not a fear base of dying other than being afraid of losing my relationship with my wife and son. Those are the things that like I don't want to lose. Like it scares the shit out of me to like think about my wife as a widow entering into her 40s and having to navigate like internet dating, for the first time. I mean, we started dating before that even existed, and I just don't want her to have to like go on to Tinder.
Maybe she can do better than Tinder.
Yeah, I hope so. But or even just like think about like
Yeah.
that whole process. And I, and I don't want to like have somebody else raise my son,
Right.
and that's the stuff that like freaks me out.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that's really hard to swallow with this whole thing. But other than that, I mean, it's not like, oh man, I wish I would have, gone to India one more time, or I wish I would have like, saw Iceland, or
Right.
like, do these things.
I really want to
Like,
see Iceland, by the
yeah,
way.
I
So
can, yeah,
maybe we can work that out.
yeah,
But
exactly.
you can do some of both. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't have
right.
to be
I
a one-way
know.
ticket around
Yeah,
the world. It just be like a little round trip to Iceland with your
yeah,
buddy Jason.
right. Yeah,
No big thing.
I know. Well, and I've actually been
Leave on
thinking
a
about
Monday,
it.
come back on the following Tuesday.
Yeah, I know.
Not miss an appointment.
Third world countries are kind of out because of my immune system.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and plus the fear of
And
being.
coach is out too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
So I'll be in coach
Right.
because my health is
Sounds
fine.
good. Yeah,
In
right.
first class, let me know how the trip
Yeah.
went.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, third world countries are completely out, plus the fear of being in a third world country hospital, not speaking the language possibly, and like
Yeah.
trying to explain like what's going on. But Scandinavia,
Yeah, it can only get better.
yeah,
That's
right.
that's an
It can
upgrade in
only-
healthcare.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's an upgrade in healthcare, probably an upgrade in sanitation.
Yeah.
I'd probably like walk into the hospital, they treat me for free, and I like walk out and
The nursing staff probably isn't a downgrade either.
yeah, right, yeah, exactly. So
All the
yeah.
priorities are covered.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a weird place to be as a 37-year-old. Just
Yeah.
like, it's not what I expected or was planning on whatsoever. But like I'll tell you on a personal level, and also on the level of the things that I hear back as feedback from people I connect with through this experience. This experience has been meaningful. It's been something that has forced me to like get out of this kind of monotony or taking things for granted and
Right.
whatnot, which I mean, I practice yoga. I have a dedicated practice, and that's part of the job of practicing, is being able to be present and not take things for granted and not rely on your habits and things like that. But this has really forced the issue, and some things that I thought that I was maybe doing pretty well has kind of shined some light on it and shown like, well, you did all right with it, but like you weren't quite doing it at that level of awareness.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone with a friend of mine who his son lives in Chicago with his mom, and he's living in Richmond, and it he, through my experience, he was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, like why am I spending my life and time in Richmond? And he decided to move to Chicago, and is like making all the plans and stuff. And he was just like, I just want you to know that like, your experience is what pushed me to this, and made me realize like that these are the things that are really essential, and that really shouldn't be compromised on. And so, and I've, I mean, that's an example, but there's been a lot of experiences like that have been kind of conveyed to me. So, it's been something that, it's been meaningful to me, and it's been meaningful to people that surround me. And that's really all I can ask for with this whole weird process.
Well, I mean, I think what most of us want from our life is to leave a positive impact on the world around us and
Yeah.
to influence people in a inspiring way. I mean, that's why people make art and music, and we do most of the things we do. It seems like I remember I was talking to someone about I was blown away. I was just blown away by the community uprising to support you guys. And somebody said, I don't know who it was, they're like, Ryan's helped a lot of people. I was like, who are these people giving $10,000 or whatever? I was like, he's saved people's lives. He's really made an impact on people, and they're really grateful. And the fact that they can do anything, meaningful to give back to him. I mean,
Yeah, it's really
They're
incredible.
grateful for the opportunity, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, so you were doing this already.
Yeah.
Like this was already your, we're both about to lose it. um, this was already your relationship with the world, you know. So it hasn't changed, it's just taken on a different shape,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
I don't like this role really. I don't like the role of being the receiver.
Oh, that role. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
I feel much more comfortable, in all honesty, being a person that can like help out, and step in and be the facilitator for that. And it's taken me a really long time to be okay, really, with people giving me, $10,000 and
Well,
like,
yeah.
and this thing. And I know, like, yeah, people have expressed this over and over, like, this makes me feel like I'm contributing to your situation in a healthy way, and so this is meaningful to them. But it's not easy, I mean, I don't like even just the tinge of being a charity case,
Yeah.
and so I mean, and it's all my own shit, I mean, it's all my own stuff that I have to like get over, and I'm supremely thankful on the other end of that, I mean, it's incredible and it's beautiful, um, but it's weird.
Yeah.
It's a role that I'm not all that comfortable with and not used to, and it's a process of being okay with it. I mean, there's so many people who have given in so many different ways
Right.
that like every conversation that I have should just like begin with thank you.
Right.
I mean, it's I we saw somebody the other day who went into their store, bought some things, and went out. And we were like, oh shit, we didn't say thank you to them, like because they've given us,
Right.
like something towards the auction, and that just went on, and and I know they don't care, like I'm sure they don't, like they're not like those bastards, like we gave them so much and they didn't even say thank you or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's a weird relationship. I mean, it's like we uh we got given tickets to the symphony the other night, a while back, and we went there and saw people that we knew, and everybody that we had a conversation with, I felt like I needed to begin the conversation with, oh, we were given these tickets. This is
Mm.
not like what your money that you gave us like for medical expenses is going towards,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
Um, and so it's,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, where resources that we're being like abundantly given, like is going towards, and it's something that like churns in my mind, and I'm really aware of, and it's probably, I don't know that too many other people are probably like thinking like that, like what the fuck are they doing at the symphony, like they should be home broke, or like, but it's a weird relationship because we're given all this, a financial support and different types of support, and and I have to imagine that some people have thoughts of where that should go, but I have a strange relationship with being able to like spend it on symphony tickets, which we didn't, but like if we did, like that's where we go, or we were planning on taking a road trip out west,
Right.
and it's just like, okay, well, is this where this money should go, or should it stay you know, in a purely medical fund, or should it be for Harper's College if I'm not here anymore, or what, I mean, it's a conundrum of what to do with this amazing, abundance that people have given us, that have allowed us to move forward in an uncompromising way with my treatment, where it's not a conversation that my wife and I needed to really have of, do we stay here in town and take the level of care that like is still good quality, but
Right.
like Duke was way better, but it was out of network,
Right.
and they were just integrated. And, my radiation oncologist was talking to my chemo oncologist, and they were talking to my surgical oncologist, and they were having team meetings about me. Whereas everything around here was, nobody, the right hand wasn't talking to the left, and,
Yeah.
everything else. And so, we were able to make that decision without like, oh, well, should we spend this money here, or what should we do? And so it's given us like this amazing, affordance of that. And it's given Brooke an opportunity to step away from the intensity of work that she was doing with her dressmaking shop, and to be able to be with us, with Harper and I, and really, you know be a mom, and be grieving, and be going through this stuff, and be processing, and us to spend as much quality time together as possible. And you know going back to this whole kind of extended dying process that I'm going through, it's a weird thing, because I watched my grandfather pass away. I was like 25, and he died of cancer, and I watched like my grandma and him be so much more affectionate than I ever saw them be before,
Mm.
and just be really raw and honest and open. And it's been a huge inspiration for me with my relationship with Brooke, and with Harper, and really with everybody, of being as open and raw and honest, and trying to leave really nothing left unsaid, which is impossible, but at least moving in that direction.
Sure.
And being able to just share, this experience, and make sure that people know that I love them. And to, if I like trampled on some toes along the way, like be like, hey, I'm sorry. Like,
Right.
I was a stupid kid, or like I was at a different place, and like not doing life well, or as well as I hope I'm doing now. you know um so it's this extended dying process of being able to like try to leave this world right,
Yeah.
and leave it with integrity, and I don't think it matters, again, whether I'm here for the short term or a longer term, and moving forward with that sort of intention, I think, is really, really huge. So yeah, I it's such a the relationship that I've had with the people who have given so much to our family has been really, really beautiful. And Brooke and I sat down, and we had to make a decision about how we were going to convey all this information to people. And so we've been really public with this whole journey, and this whole thing. And we were talking to a friend who the other day, who's more introverted, and she's like, I can't believe that you guys do this. Like,
Yeah.
I would never ever do this. And I mean, there's some downsides of it too, because I mean, I walk into a restaurant to go grab a bite to eat, and I get the cancer face from like eight
Right.
people I don't know. It's like the, oh, you got cancer,
Yeah.
like, I feel so bad for you guys, and that's like, it's okay.
Right.
I mean, I have a lot of conversations with people where like they're crying, and I like, I'm kind of at this point with it right now where like every once in a while I'll like try to cry with them, because I feel like I should, but I can't.
You got to train
Like,
yourself.
yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
I'm cried out.
Yeah, I'm cried out.
Like,
Yeah, sure.
I mean, talk to me at the beginning of this, like,
Oh,
I
you
freaked
missed it.
out for a
You
while.
totally should have
You
called me a
should,
few months
yeah,
ago. I was
yeah.
crying
I
all
was
the
crying.
time.
I would cry with you like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No
nonstop.
problem. That's funny. I had a moment when I was preparing for this today where I was deciding which chair to give you.
Uh-huh.
and I didn't know which chair. They're both uncomfortable,
Uh,
and I didn't know
no,
which
it's not too
chair
bad.
was more uncomfortable. And I was like, well, do I give myself the comfortable chair because I need to be able to focus, or do I give it to him? And I was like, do I give it to the guy with cancer? And I was like, am I allowed to make jokes about the guy with cancer? Or is only the guy with cancer allowed to make jokes
Yeah.
about having cancer? I had this whole inner
Yeah.
dialogue, which is now public.
Yeah, right.
But it was funny. Like I had that moment, so
Yeah, I mean, it's nice because like, I'm like middle-aged white guy that like, never really had anybody that I could make fun of like the way that you Jews do.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Like,
I mean, and so now I have this whole realm of cancer that I can kind of poke fun at like
you mean in a
in a
self-effacing way?
self-deprecating
Yeah.
way,
Yeah, you still, even with cancer, you got nothing on the Jews.
Yeah, right. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
Jews also get cancer. I mean,
Yeah,
just
right. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
who do you
right.
even think you
Yeah,
are?
right. I know.
You're
yeah.
so out of your league
I
right
know,
now.
Yeah,
I can't
know.
even believe you're trying.
Yeah. I finally just ruined this whole interview for anybody who was on my side.
You got to go anti-Semitic this
Yeah,
this
right,
far
exactly. I know. I almost had everybody, and then
Yeah.
it all
It's,
crumbled.
listen, the thing is, when you perform comedy, you like it's all about making them love you and then losing them
Yeah,
and bringing
right.
them back.
And then how to bring them back in.
If
Yeah.
it's just one way all the time, it's boring.
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah, you have to build that tension.
Yeah, last night that happened. I performed last night. I had one of those disastrous performances last night, and it wasn't my fault. Like I was in a place. I went to an open mic that's for music,
Uh-huh.
but we went a couple weeks ago and said, "Can we perform comedy here?" He's like, "Oh yeah, people do that every now and then. It'll be cool. It'll be a nice break." And in my fantasy, I thought people would be thrilled to have a break
Yeah.
and just like want to be entertained for a second. There was this group of like 10 women in this corner, not all women, a couple guys, but the voices I was hearing were the women. And they were so loud. And when my friend went up first, I shushed him. I was like, shh, because like it's comedy. And they looked at me like I was the biggest dick in the world.
Right.
And then when I got up there, I started my set by saying, I was like, I'm an only child, so you're going to have to give me a lot more attention than you gave Nick. And they were like, no way.
Yeah.
Fuck, like, I was like,
Yeah.
can you guys just be quiet while I do this? I was like, nope, we're not going to be quiet. And they weren't quiet.
Yeah.
They were so loud. And then so I had like, two guys sitting on a windowsill who were paying attention, and then I had these three people, two men and a woman, and a pair of them were a couple, and the other guy was the friend. And I had their attention, and they were mostly enjoying it, and like I always, first thing I get out of the way that I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
And one person's like, woo, and I was like, oh, there's always one other Jew in the room. And this guy's like, yeah. I'm like, are you Jewish? He's like, no. I was like, oh, you're a sympathizer though.
Yeah, right.
And so like,
your Jew lives matter.
yeah. So Jew lives. Oh, I haven't seen that signage yet.
Me neither.
Yeah.
We should
We should
trademark it.
definitely make one. Yeah. Jew lives matter. Okay, so then I made some joke. I don't know. I made some joke about relationships and women, and the guy was like sided with me on it. I was like, dude, don't laugh at that joke in front of your girlfriend. She's beautiful, and she's gonna end up going home with me instead of you,
Yeah, right.
and that's gonna be bad for her. And then like him and his friend like got a little like not cool
Yeah,
with that
right.
remark. And then some other guy said to Nick, he's like, I think your comedian friend's about to get his ass kicked. But they were fine. I mean, it was nothing at all.
Yeah.
I would have. I think I would have known if I was in danger,
Right.
But it didn't even occur to me because they stuck it out. They were gonna go get a beer. I'm like, where are you going? You're most of my audience. I'm talking
Yeah,
directly
right,
to you.
exactly.
They're like, just gonna
Nobody
get a beer.
else
I
is
was
even
like,
paying attention.
and they're like, okay, we'll stay. And that was after that happened. So it was
Yeah,
like,
so
it was cool.
it was simpatico.
But yeah, it was funny. I mean, it was just like, oh man, it was such a nightmare. I mean, there's just nothing more pointless than shouting into a room where no one's listening to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I could only imagine.
Oh, it's so tough.
Yeah.
But you do those gigs to like,
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the nice things about being a yoga teacher is like, everybody pays attention.
They do pay attention, but
and they're quiet.
they're quiet and they pay attention. I've had classes that were full. I've had classes that were empty.
Yeah.
The empty class is the equivalent of the talking room.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Of the shit set.
Yeah, but I mean, sort of. I mean, it just in terms of like, what am I doing with my time?
Yeah, sure.
But even like I teach a lot of yoga workshops. And for a while I had a weekly class.
Yeah.
And my yoga workshops, I now realize, are performance art opportunities for
Yeah,
me.
right.
So I like to book workshops so I can go perform for
Yeah.
people who I actually do have their undivided attention.
I completely agree. I mean, I taught my first class in 6 weeks, this last Sunday,
Yeah.
and you were there, but it almost felt foreign at first, and it was the first time in a while where I kind of had a little bit of anxiety
Oh, that's
creep in,
funny.
because now my yoga practice is so much different.
Mm,
I don't do a really rigorous
I'm sure,
practice. I
yeah.
do, restoratives and pranayama for a majority of it, and I'll do a little bit of active every once in a while. But, you know, normally I teach what I practice.
Right.
And now I'm kind of on this other side where I'm not practicing it. And so I have to teach kind of from memory and from reading about it in other
Mm,
books, and from this other perspective where it's different because I'd plan my class the night before. I'd go practice what I was going to teach, and then I'd make edits depending upon what my practice was like, and that was the every class practice.
right.
That's what I would do. So this was the first class that I taught in a really long time in general. But, um, it was also this whole new format where I wasn't teaching what I had just practiced in the room next door,
Right. Right.
and so like it kind of was anxiety inducing, in a way that like it was kind of alien, and it took a little while to get past that. But yeah, I think there is like a level of anytime you get up in front of people, you have to be captivating, and
Yeah.
like and how to demand that attention,
I just
and
get up and
there's
straight up demand it. I'm
yeah,
like,
right,
that's how I start every show.
yeah,
I'm an only
right,
child, so I need your undivided
yeah, right,
attention. That's
yeah,
like,
yeah. And I'm an only child who's an Iyengar yoga teacher who doesn't doesn't worry about yelling at people anyway.
yeah, right, exactly.
you
Yeah.
know
I know I was at a therapeutic yoga conference recently and I taught there, which was, I
Oh wow.
mean, a great
Yeah,
opportunity,
yeah.
and it was a 7 a.m. class. People were there early and I'd stacked up all the eggs and I was very clear. I said, take 2 gray ones and 4 colorful ones. And people were just pulling from every stack. They were stacked perfectly for people to take them. And I was like, you guys are not listening at all, and they were so offended. And I just said, listen,
Yeah, man.
I'm not an anger teacher, but I learned in that lineage and
Right.
I'm authorized to yell at you if I want.
Oh yeah.
I was like the
Right.
inappropriate yoga
I
guy,
l- I love teaching people who are not of the lineage,
Oh my God, they're just
because I
in
mean,
shock the whole
yeah,
time.
right, exactly, because people are used to it. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, if you ever had a chance to study with Iyengar himself, like, or any of his senior teachers, like, you just, you expect it,
Oh yeah. No. If
it's
someone's not yelling at
it's
me, I
not a
assume they don't
yeah,
know what
right,
they're
or
doing.
hitting me in the back to like,
Yeah.
wake something up, or
Yeah.
doing something. I feel like, oh, I must, be doing something wrong.
I know the thing that I had the hardest time adjusting to when I took a class at the therapeutic yoga was like, if you feel like it, step your right foot forward. I'm like,
Yeah, right.
step your right foot
Yeah,
forward.
right,
Not if you
exactly.
feel like
No,
it. This
yeah,
is the thing. If you
yeah,
can't do it,
yeah.
we'll
That's
deal with
one
that.
thing.
But this isn't like a choice.
Yeah,
This isn't.
exactly.
This is not.
Right. We're going somewhere
Yeah,
here,
yeah. I'm
and
I'm in the front of the class. You're doing what I tell you to do.
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like, and if there's an issue, we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
Until
right.
then,
Yeah,
don't
just
make
do
this up for
this.
yourself.
Just do this.
So
Because
yeah,
hopefully the teacher's coming from a place of more experience, where they've premeditated what they're going to be teaching and how
yeah,
they're going to be teaching it in a meaningful way. And it's not this willy-nilly lackadaisical, like whatever you feel like doing, do.
right, yeah,
It's like, no, I know where we're going, and I'm going to take you step by step, hopefully how to get this experience.
yeah, exactly,
you
yeah,
know, and depending upon how intensely you follow and how much you pay attention, depends upon how much you get it, you know.
yeah,
And I think that's one of the beauties of the method,
right,
is there's and for me, I'm not, much of a new age guy, or like, willy-nilly. Like I like to call it new age more than new age,
right,
and I, I'm somebody from Western medicine. I resonate with that. And I feel like, the Iyengar approach to yoga is so pragmatic and practical, and makes sense and gives really profound effects, but in through practical means.
Right.
And that's what I really resonated with, because I started practicing when I was 18, and um I was a yoga tourist for a while. I'd pop into classes, see what they were like and experience them and whatnot. And I kept on coming back to the Iyengar system, because of the level of integrity that it has, and the level of pragmatism and effectiveness that's really, really beautiful, and the way in which it's conveyed, and in a no nonsense manner. And I'm so thankful, because it's something that you've practiced Iyengar yoga, and so I don't know how much of the audience has, but I mean, it's something very adaptable. It's something that is based upon active asana work, and then also there's this whole other component of restoratives and pranayama and meditation and these other components, where um, I think that in a lot of schools of at least hatha yoga, if I was involved with, there wouldn't necessarily be as fluid of a transition into what my practice is now.
Mm. Right.
Because I feel like, even though I'm not doing as much active practice or standing poses or rigorous practice, I can still progress. And I think in a lot of ways it's actually challenging me to be even more sensitive and more aware with my practice, because if I overdo, or if I do things in a way that is not facilitating my current you know reality, being what it is, I pay for it.
Right.
you know
Quickly,
yeah,
probably.
I
Yeah.
pretty quickly. I mean,
Mm.
it lets me know, like, if I overstep my boundaries, or allow my ego to push me into something that wasn't appropriate for me, or um it's something where it lets me know. And so I've developed a sensitivity where I can catch it before I go over the falls,
Right.
and I can practice in a way that's really facilitating what it is that I'm going through right now, and how it is that I'm having to live. And the other thing too that I think is really amazing about the Iyengar system too is we have all these incredible senior teachers. And my teachers who I study with had 40 years to study directly with BK Iyengar, and have developed their own practice over a long period of time. And so they're such amazing reference points for me. So if I get stuck, or if I get into a place that's not making sense, or if I am having questions about the practice, I reach out to them. And so there's still this whole teacher student relationship that is really beautiful and really profound, and being able to ask them questions, and have them be very free and open with their time, from somebody who has walked this yogic path for a sustained amount of time.
Right.
And I think in the current reality of kind of fast food yoga teacher trainings, where people go in for a short period of time and come out with a certificate, and hang up their tile and teach. It's really refreshing to have teachers who have that level of integrity, and have that level of knowledge base. And it's I'm really thankful for that.
Right.
And it's I get reassured over and over again that, yeah, I chose well, picking this lineage to go deep into. And it wasn't from a place of not exploring other things. It was from comparing and contrasting a lot of different approaches to this practice, and this was the one that continued to come back. And not only the integrity of the practice, but the integrity of the person that it came from BK Iyengar. I feel like he lived his life with integrity, from my interactions with him briefly, and through you know reading about his life and hearing about his life through senior teachers and things of that sort. And I think that's really the fountain that it all kind of comes from.
Yeah, that was the like striking thing when, he dropped the physical body or however people like to describe it.
Yeah.
Not a shred of like, there were no skeletons coming out of the closet. There was
Yeah.
nothing to hide. There was nothing that had been hidden that
Which is
suddenly
really
was there.
refreshing in
Oh,
today's
yeah,
environment,
it's so unusual.
you know.
And I mean, the fact that we think it's unusual and refreshing, that's the problem.
Yeah, that is,
But
it's huge.
but nevertheless, it's awesome that that's how it was. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's my favorite thing about the Iyengar system.
And more than no skeletons coming out of the closet, just beautiful story after beautiful story of like interactions and
Right.
ways in which he affected people's lives, and his relationships with his students and things of that nature. It's yeah, I that actually was what, because I'd been teaching yoga for about 10 years at that point,
Right.
when I decided that I was going to become a certified Iyengar instructor. And it kind of culminated right around, when he passed. And I was like, okay, I want to do this. I want to pay homage to this person and his work, and try to convey what he did and stand on the shoulders of the work of this individual in a way that maintains integrity of what he was trying to convey, and also is able to use that as a really solid platform of where my practice is and where my teaching is, and to continue to explore from that platform, but that be where I stand.
Right.
And so yeah, it's good, because I think there are a lot of people who are very quick to create fusions, between different modalities and different approaches to the practice, and then Tai Chi, yoga, like aerials, and all these other things that like all get mushed together in a realm of you know of 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 things where I'm not certain how often there's an understanding of the underpinnings of each thing that they're borrowing from before they mesh it all together.
Right.
And I think that's one of the unfortunate things, because you know yoga is a practice that's been practiced for thousands of years, and it's developed and changed. But I think especially when you dig into the Yoga Sutras and the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and things, there are underlying things that have driven this practice and have maintained integrity over a long period of time, and maintained meaningfulness to people over a long period of time for transformation. And that's one of the things that I hope doesn't get lost in Western approaches to the practice. Because I mean, when I tell somebody that I teach yoga or practice yoga or whatnot, that's not a yoga practitioner and things, they're like, oh yeah, I love to stretch, and that's usually where the conversation starts.
Right.
Or oh well, no, I like Pilates, or things like that that are great. I mean, I'm not poo-pooing Pilates or anything like that, but it's a completely different aim.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know and to like put them into the same pile, I think is not appropriate. I mean,
Yoga lattes.
yeah, right, exactly. And so and I mean, I get up on my soapbox, and I'm to a certain extent an evangelist for Iyengar yoga.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what's affected me in a profound way, and I want to share that with people, and I want people to understand why,
Right.
why it affected me, and how. And I mean, it's been huge, because I feel like the amount of mule work that I've done on the front end of this practice of you know 18 years of really solid foundational work,
Right.
has really made me kind of prepared for where I'm at now with it. And the practice is not necessarily always fun right now, because it's a mindfulness practice that is forcing me to watch things slip away.
Mm.
And so, like, my strength level is not what it was. I'm not. I've lost a lot of asanas that I practice that just aren't practical or appropriate for me anymore. Um, and so it's hard. I
Yeah.
mean, I went down to the Iyengar Yoga convention, and 1,200 people, and I'm over on the side with the trestle and the backbenders and chairs and the 80-year-old women and people with
And
MS
me, if I had
and
been
yeah
there.
and and the pregnant women over
Yeah, yeah,
here
that's
and
yep.
like you know
I used
and
to say yoga over 50 was appropriate for
yeah.
me until I took yoga over 50. I was
Yeah,
like, I need
right.
yoga
I
over
need it
60.
70. Yeah, right. Just keep on pushing
Yeah, the 50, those people are too
pushing it
strong.
off into the distance. Yeah. But for my whole experience of practice, I'd be in the center room and the instruction gets given and I do it to, 100% of what I'm able to do it to.
Right,
And for the most part, it's able to be done in something that looks similar to what they're asking,
right. But that's what a younger yoga is best for. It's
Yeah,
all about,
adaptability
yep,
and being able to make it meet you where you are
right,
and then allow you to progress from that place.
right,
And I think that he really created a system or approach that allows people to come to that with a even playing field. And but it's still strange to be 37 and 6 months removed from being in the middle of the room,
yeah,
you know, doing whatever was asked. And here I am, over there, kind of going back and forth between doing some of the things that are asked with, oh no, did a little bit too much there,
right,
you know. I'm gonna go lie down and do some restoratives right now, or I'm gonna watch and see what's going on. And it was a completely different, perspective, and it
sure,
was it was it was strange, it
yeah,
was alien. And so it's caused a lot of you know change in a really short amount of time. I mean, there's times when like I feel like I've kind of aged 40 years in this last 6 months, especially where I'm at with my chemo process. Like if I'm in my downtime, I'm like I feel ancient,
yeah,
and it's something where it's just bizarre. It's unlike any sort of reality that I've ever known, and I'm just really thankful to have had that foundation of the practice because like I said, I was in the hospital for a week. Most people are in the hospital for 2 or 3 weeks,
right,
and I was able to bounce right back and start to you know recover and thrive. And I think that the way that I was living life prior to this has really afforded me a lot of opportunities and freedoms that a lot of people don't have whenever they're going through this. Um, and so I'm really thankful for making the choices that I made and prioritizing the things that I prioritized before this happened. So it's been something where I have a foundation. Because I mean, one of the things that I have asked a lot of my patients as a physical therapist when I first meet them is, what do you want to get better to do? And and a lot of times I'll kind of get this blank stare in return of, what do you mean?
right,
I mean, because we have this kind of ongoing joke of we get people better so they can go home and watch more TV, you know, um,
right,
and just kind of go back to that life. And it's that is a lot of people's reality. And uh, and believe me, I mean, it's weird for me to say that too because my mom just bought cable TV for us, which is strange because I haven't had television in the house since I left their house,
right.
and and
Did she buy it for her or for you?
I think mostly for her.
Yeah,
She wanted it, and she like she likes watching television and things, and I didn't trust myself because I was brought up as a television child, and so like I basically took 5 years from like 1995 until 2000 where I didn't watch any television or any movies, or if the television was on I'd just like walk out.
mm,
And and until I got back to this place where I could kind of have a relationship with it. But now it's actually really, really nice because I get to watch Wimbledon, I get to watch like
Right.
soccer and stuff like that when I'm in my downtime, and I can come to it with a place of moderation, because it's just like, gosh, I just do. I was like, man, am I going to like regress back to like where I was as this like television child of watching 5 hours of television a day or something like that crazy?
Yeah.
And not to mention like I live with my mom again and like this whole like anxiety about,
Right.
regression. Um, but but the it hasn't happened that way. I get up and like record the tennis match that I want to watch and edit all the commercials out
Sure.
while I'm
Right.
watching
Yeah.
it. Now it's a beautiful thing. But but I feel like with my yoga practice, it's in this strange way. It's something that I've actually been able to progress with through this this weird thing that I'm going through, and really getting a lot of insights into my practice and why I practice. And I was talking with one of my teachers not too long ago, and he said, right now, your job from now until you die is try to reach samadhi.
Mm.
That's it. Like, you know, study the yamas, niyamas, and practice asana and pranayama and meditation and things. But your job is to try to figure out how to make it to samadhi before you go, and die with samadhi.
Mm.
And I've taken that to heart.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I might not have all that much time. I might as well aim for the target and go straight to it.
Yeah.
As close as I can, and with the understanding that I have and the knowledge base that I've been able to accumulate and my understanding of the practice, how do I get there? And that's been huge. And the whole process of, when I started practicing yoga, I was atheist, you know, and I
Now you
think,
believe in all the gods.
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah,
You're just so extreme.
Well, I've transitioned into agnostic at least, and then I think through the continued practice of yoga, I've at least gotten to this place of optimistic agnostic,
Yeah.
but it's at least given me a framework from
Sure.
somebody who was brought up in a house that had no religion, no real spirituality to think of other than be decent to people, and just kind of, no structure to that, to even giving a framework to even approach the concept of God, which, as I'm dying, it
Yeah.
becomes all the more important concept to like even start to think about and approach, but I'm really thankful to have kind of the structure to even like start to look at that whole thing,
Sure.
and then how to surrender the actions and the fruits of my labor and the future fruits of my practice to something greater than myself, in whatever form that is. And it can be, what I consider to be like the practical God of service and like, with, one-on-one, or, the big God, like, concept of overlying, everything.
Yeah. I mean, I spent so much time in that discussion. I have so many thoughts on it. But I think like a couple of things that really strike me um, one is the way you talked early about, let's say you have 18, I mean, I can't even, it's hard for me to say it, but let's say you have 18 months. These are your words, so I'm borrowing them from you.
Sure.
You know, how do I make the most out of those 18 months? And, and, you were saying, that you're a retired individual at 37. And so you have a lot of time, and it struck me like your, um, ability, and I almost want to call it a luxury, but it's clearly the wrong word. Um, but you actually can have more quality time. Well, I don't know if more is the right word. You can have a tremendous amount of quality time within that 18 months.
Yeah.
Hopefully longer, obviously.
Sure.
Um, then, many people would think to make a point of having over 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Like, we get so wrapped up in our lives. Like, the thing I'm most obsessed with right now is how much of every day of mine is spent just dealing with the practical shit.
Yeah.
How much time I spend doing dishes and laundry and, communicating with people in ways that I don't need to, that aren't even fun.
Yeah.
And uh and just like it's just the amount of
And believe me, I still spend a lot of time on phone with insurance companies and like bullshit that sucks.
well, but
You
yeah,
know?
okay, you're right. That's like your version of that at the moment. 'Cause
Yeah.
you have to do that in order to facilitate the care you need and everything else.
Yeah. There's still the dishes to be done.
I thought people didn't expect anything of you. You're like,
Yeah,
I'd love to
right.
do the dishes.
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
cancer.
Well, yeah, my dishes now are, being on the phone with the insurance company
Yeah.
for hours at a time, or my disability claims and shit like that, So,
Oh man,
yeah.
wasn't there like a Seinfeld where John Lovitz? I feel like John Lovitz was on Seinfeld and he had a toupee and he was getting all these women because he had a toupee. So George had a toupee, and then there was something about he started telling people he got the toupee because he had cancer. Like, I don't remember if he had it or not, but then everybody felt bad about making fun of him. So it was
Right.
like the whole thing was he structured it to his advantage. Something only Larry David
Yeah, would have dreamed up.
would have the confidence
Yeah,
to address.
exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it is something to really think about, though, um like how we spend our time. I remember a friend of mine, we had the same spiritual teacher for a while, and she was visiting and he was doing a book signing and he inscribed stuff in everyone's book, and in her book, I don't even know what he wrote in mine, but I remember what he wrote in hers. In her book, he wrote, don't waste time.
Yeah.
That was what he said to her.
Yeah.
And this guy really had the ability to hone in on the main issue
Hmm.
and bring light to it.
Yeah.
Like a really uncommon ability to do that.
I think one of the kind of seesaw issues for me, that is really difficult is that concept that you're talking about right there of how to not waste time at the same time as I lay in bed for half of my life right now.
Right.
I mean, because I'm forced to, because of
Yeah.
my chemo and everything like that. I mean, for 5 days I'm in bed, and so, and when I've tried to push through that, because initially that kind of don't waste time motto was like purveying through my head, and I was like, I'm here, I am laying in bed, and I didn't really know at that point really kind of what the cycle of chemo was going to look like, and I was like, gosh, am I just going to like waste my life away laying here in bed? And but I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to get up and try to do things, and not waste time, and go and do these things. And it was awful, because I was trying to be in a place that I wasn't.
Mm.
I was trying to be in this like level of productivity or meaningful time, or like, doing things with people, but my energy wasn't able to carry me for that. And so, there's really been a balance between surrender of, okay, I'm just down and out. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm surrendering. I'm out. I'm sleeping. I'm, not doing anything. I'm antisocial. I'm not really leaving the house. And then, when the energy returns, how to transition into this other half of my life right now where I can start to do some things. And it's such a weird dichotomy to live half of life down and out and surrendering. And then the other half, don't waste time,
Right.
and be able to maximize the time. And that Sunday where the clouds start to part and things start to get good again, through Wednesday is kind of that transition period where stuff gets really weird during those times, because some days during that transition period, or some moments or some hours, I'll be at the down and out phase, and then I'll be like, okay, I feel decent here, so don't waste time. But then, like, I might have overdone that a little bit on the don't waste time, so I have to go back to the down and out.
Right.
And so it's just like those 3 days of transition are the strangest components between that and how to navigate that, because when I'm good, and I won't, I won't allow things to just become mundane or wasted time. But when it's something that is um, really just more ambiguous, I think that's where I struggle with it.
Yeah.
Is okay, where am I at now? And it takes a lot of self-study, and like being aware and being present, and it changes. So I mean, I think that on that level, like the preparation of yoga practice has been really huge, and something that I don't know how many folks who enter into this, like, whole shitty, like, cancer phase of life have as a precursor, you know.
I mean, I have an uncle who's going through it. He's older than you are. He has, I want to say he has colon cancer. I don't want to say that. Um, but
Great phrase.
but I think it's here's what I really want to
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
I'm pretty sure it's colon cancer. Um, maybe not, but it's something. It's digestive area, but it's not this exactly you have.
Yeah.
But he's been going on and off through chemo, and it's funny. It's like he and I, and really thanks to Facebook, it's like we have more interaction now than we ever did. I mean, he's really a step uncle, and my dad's technically not even married to his sister anymore, but I mean, she will be my forever stepmom. I mean, she's a huge part of my life and my daughter's life, and whether or not she's still married to my father is irrelevant in terms of my relationship with her, and by extension, my relationship with him. But he doesn't have yoga by any means.
Sure.
And he smoked plenty of weed before he got cancer. I think he probably smokes less now, which and but this is a guy who I think didn't really find his purpose in the world. And
He needs to watch The Jerk.
yeah,
Understand his
he was
special
also born a
purpose.
poor black child.
Yeah.
He and it was kind of interesting. Like he I think through Facebook, he reconnected with his high school girlfriend. They fell back in love and got married. And he was really, I would say, I don't know him well enough to say this, but I still think it's true. I think he was happy for the first time in his life when he turned 60 or something, you know. And then 2 years later, found out he had cancer. Like he was finally happy, And this woman who like left her husband, and I mean that marriage was on its way out.
Sure.
But she left her husband. It really changed a lot of things with her family. She's very religious, so getting divorced was in and of itself conflictual. But she did it. She was back in love with her high school boyfriend, and and they're still together. And but I mean, for her, like in a different way, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Yeah. But
oh man, I can only imagine like what my wife is going through right now. I mean, it has to be something so much, I mean, in some ways, so much harder and so much more challenging than what I'm going through. Yeah, I mean,
it has a different set of challenges. Yeah,
it's just different. I mean, it has to be something that like I can't even imagine. I can't imagine like going through this with her. You know,
Right.
if the,
If it was
if the
reversed.
roles were reversed.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I can deal with this. Like, I can't even talk about that without, like, you know,
Yeah.
kind of freaking out right now.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I don't, you know,
That could just
and
be
and
the
that's not
the
even something
synthetic
that
weed
exists.
talking.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's not something that exists, but even
Yeah.
just like even approaching that concept like
Yeah.
freaks me out, you
Yeah,
know?
sure.
And so like, I mean, I can only imagine, and she's handling it beautifully. Like, she's doing a really good job of it and being able to, you know, deal with like this stuff in a really heroic way, and like, you know, is doing it really just incredibly, in
Mm.
addition to being a brand new mom and like what that entails, and you know, and living with her mother-in-law now, and which,
Right.
you know, my mom is a saint. Like, she's incredible. She's there when we need her, you know. She's in, incredibly helpful, but then also like is very mindful about making sure that like Brooke and I maintain our space and like our normalcy, and is doing, you know, her role in this whole thing so well too.
This
But
is when not coming from a Jewish family really works to your advantage.
yeah, right.
There is no Jewish mother-in-law who would be capable of anything you just described.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, and it's crazy too, because I have a 95-year-old grandmother who lives by herself in Ohio, who my mom was helping take care of.
And
so
you became
she,
the more
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, so she left Ohio and my 95-year-old grandmother to come down here and take care of me,
Yeah.
you know, which is crazy to me, you know, and
Yeah.
like, and sucks, you know, like I want my mom to be able to be there taking care of my grandma, but it's undeniable like how much help she is. And really, like, I mean, we couldn't be doing this in the way in which we're doing it without her.
Right.
You know, I mean, just the fact that I'm here with you right now and not having a baby like on my lap screaming along with this interview, like, is
Right.
because she's watching him. You
Yeah.
know, she's watching my
I know we
son.
had the baby when I interviewed your wife
Oh yeah,
on
right.
video.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, and so just having her there to like, you know, just make everything easier and take care of me when I'm down and out, and take care of Harper some days.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we've got a blind dog who we just got diagnosed with diabetes the other day.
Ugh.
Like, who the fuck does that happen to? Like, you know, we adopt this blind dog and like, you know, find out she has diabetes like a month ago. And so now we have to give her insulin shots twice a day in addition to this like special diet. And like, it's crazy. But like, you know, she's there to like, my mom's there to give her shots and stuff when I'm not able to. And it's just, you know, it's so helpful. But, you know, I mean, that's part of like my wife's reality. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way of, you know, living with your mother-in-law that is not, you know, just different from the
Than
normal.
not living with your mother-in-law.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they have a wonderful, beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
But still, it like life looks so much different than what it did when she like signed up for all this and said her vows on our wedding day.
Yeah.
You know. And I mean, it was all in there, like the commitments and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But
If you go back and review the tape,
yeah, right.
sickness and health,
Yeah, right.
you know,
Exactly.
it's
All
there.
those things were implanted.
Yeah. I
But
remember a friend
didn't
of
think it was
mine.
going to work out this way.
I had a friend who he suffers from depression, and he went through a depression pretty early in his marriage.
Mhm.
And I was talking to his wife about it, and she's like, I just don't, I didn't sign up for this. I'm like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I remember like I wanted, but I chose not to discipline her in that moment. I just
Mhm.
wanted to be supportive. But I was like, you totally fucking did sign up for this. Like,
Yeah.
this is what marriage
That's
is.
like,
It's not, marriage
yeah.
is not like, I just signed up to be happy with the guy I'm in love with.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
share rent.
Yeah, right. And tax benefits.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I know. When Sula was born, Georgia and I just moved in together, sort of shortly before the birth, and because that whole situation is unconventional. And then Sula was born 3 weeks early, and so her mom, who I'd only recently met, and her stepdad, they pretty much moved into our house for like a month,
Wow.
which was fine. I mean,
Yeah.
they're great,
Yeah.
never in a million years did that occur to me that that might happen. Like I'd never had a kid. I didn't know, um, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, I used to say, because this house is ridiculously huge, and we're in a room right now that used to be an exercise room, and I've rented it out to people, and now it's just filled with furniture and crap. And um, but when I moved into this house, I lived here by myself, and I used to have an exercise room and a yoga room and a meditation room, and those were different rooms. And and I had a office which doubled as a guitar studio because all my recording equipment was on my computer. So that was the only dual purpose room in the house.
Right.
And I used to say I had one room for everything. And then after Georgia moved in, I had one room for everything.
Right.
Suddenly I got downsized to just one room. So, oh man, that was an adjustment. But
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
man. It's definitely. I'm so thankful to be married though right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I I could only imagine and I think like where Brooke and I were at with our relationship anyway, she wouldn't have like headed out.
No,
You
but
know. But
it's
to like have this like relationship that like we established over a really long period of time, and then to like have that and make the conscientious decision to get married, and then make a conscientious decision to have a baby together, all preceding any of this happening.
sure.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, I couldn't imagine like going through this with somebody I was dating,
Yeah.
regardless of whether we were
For
dating for
either of
5
you. Yeah.
years
Yeah.
or 3 months or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like the family unit like has just become so much stronger through this, and it's been really pretty amazing just to watch that happen and to share that relationship, and yeah, I don't think either one of Brooke or I wanted to really have kids when we got married.
Mm.
But like we actually had a miscarriage, and it was a surprise pregnancy, and but it allowed us to like kind of tap into what parenthood would maybe even look like,
Right.
during that time of pregnancy before the miscarriage, and it allowed us to go forward with the intention of having a baby together, and and to go forward with us in kind of the same place and the same set of intentions of parenthood. And yeah, it's our relationship and our family is just like in this really surreal and sweet place. um because it could all get shaken and crumble apart like at any time, but at the
Right.
same time it's really just beautiful and rich right now, and in a way that I've never experienced in a relationship. And I think for both Brooke and I, we, prior to us getting together, we kind of joke that if we would have met in any other time in our life, we probably like would have hooked up and like, a couple times and see you later,
Yeah.
because we were vapor trails. Like we would, hang out until somebody got attached, and then like, oh, see you later.
Right.
But like we met each other at the right time of life where like we were kind of ready for one another, and we're able to like struggle through like developing a relationship, where we dated for 6 months, and then I went away and did my doctorate of physical therapy like 4 hours away. So like after 6 months of dating, we did 3 years of a long distance relationship,
Oh wow.
and then came back, and then we lived in a 600 square foot apartment in the back of our dressmaking studio. So like it was kind of like, okay, if we can live 4 hours apart and do that pretty well,
Right.
and see each other on the weekends and talk on the phone, and then be up each other's asses in a 600 square foot apartment,
Right.
and we can do that pretty well, then we've got it made. When
Right.
we have
What can't we?
yeah, when we've got a
What
normal
can't we do
house,
with
like
together? Yeah.
we're gonna be
Yeah.
like sailing along. And so yeah, I'm just so thankful for that relationship though. It's something that continues to just be really beautiful and awesome.
Well, I can only imagine. Literally, I can only imagine.
Right. I've got to go eat. I think it's about my time
All
to.
right, man. Well, that's a
Yeah.
nice way to close out. And
Yeah.
thanks for doing this. And you know, you're such a unique guy. You know,
Thanks, man.
and the I feel like I'm so much better friends with you than I am. Like that's like the way I think about you. I'm like, oh yeah, one of my best friends, Ryan, is coming over. I'm like, best friends? We've never hung out,
Yeah, right.
But it's like when I show up for class, you have this way of uh greeting me like it's like, oh my god, I was hoping you'd come. Like, and I've talked to people about that. Oh yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Like that is how you make people feel,
Well, thanks.
and
It's how,
that's an unbelievable gift.
yeah, it's how I hope I come across because
Well, you seem to do
it's
it effortlessly, so don't
thanks.
don't.
I
If you say
mean,
hope, I'm gonna think it's
I
calculated.
mean, yeah, I don't like it's nothing. It feels effortless, to
Yeah,
be able to connect with people, and I think it's one of the things that I've, for one reason or another, been given or developed, to be able to connect with people. And I mean, I was on a career path for architecture, and I was sitting on a computer for 40 hours a day,
yeah,
and I was like, no, this isn't it. Like I need something where I'm going to be like connecting with people, because that's where my abilities lie. And I recognized that, and it was something where, I mean, I I love people, and I love being able to connect with people, and I, for one reason or another, whether or not like we have a relationship together that's developed over 10 years, or we have a relationship like we have, which I value, in the same manner.
yeah.
It's something that I'm just really, the people that I'm able to connect with and share life with is just really, really important, and really special. And so I'm happy that like gets conveyed in our interactions, and hopefully the people that I interact with, on whatever level I am interacting with them, because it's.
I think it's pretty clear that I'm not the only person who feels that way. That is your way in the world.
Thanks, I appreciate it, because yeah, it means a lot. And I've been thinking a lot about like what I'd be remembered for, or kind of like what legacy I would leave behind, or what impression I would leave behind. And and I haven't created a lot of like, artifact in like, the art world, or I haven't made a lot of music or
Right.
anything like that. And so, it becomes a little bit more ambiguous. Like when David Bowie died, he left this huge legacy of
Right.
like all this stuff, or Lemmy, or whoever, whoever else died of cancer this year, all the shitty things
We
like.
can't all be David Bowie.
Yeah, right. But but like, I mean, when you think of David Bowie, you think of Ziggy Stardust and like all this amazing
Sure.
stuff that he
Yeah.
did, and it's like, well, what have you done, and I think that's one of the things that I can like feel pretty good about hanging my hat on, is like I've had the opportunity and the ability to connect with people and share something through those experiences that I know is meaningful to me, and I think is meaningful to like those people that I've shared experience with. And those experiences can come, like I said, with people I've had relationships with a long period, and people that I've just met, and just to be open and free to that is one of the things that, for one reason or another, I feel like I've been gifted with. So
Nice.
yeah.
All right, man. Well, I feel like I've been gifted with knowing you, and just and having these opportunities to just be this personal with you. It's it's a gift, and I'm glad to be able to share this with your family and let this be a part of your legacy.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
appreciate that because that's definitely that's important to me right now.
Cool.
So
All right, man. Well, if you ever want to come back and
yeah,
you think of more things you want to say,
All
you want to
right.
extend the legacy, I'm here. You see,
All
I'm in
right.
this little room.
Yeah,
I'll
all
be
right.
here.
I'll just come knock.
Just knock.
3 a.m. I just thought of this
Anytime is
other
fine.
thing.
I
Yeah.
I'm on this new weed and it kind of keeps me up at night.
And I knew
And
where you
I
lived.
know.
So,
You don't know where
so
I
here
live.
I am.
So I figured easier if I just come to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So can we crank it on?
Yeah,
You know,
just turn on the microphone. Let's go with this. So,
all right, man.
yeah, thanks, Jason.
It was about a year ago when I invited Ryan over to record this podcast. I knew he had cancer, and I hoped this could serve as a piece of the legacy he'd be leaving behind for his son. I fully intended to release it while he was still alive, and I am of course racked with guilt that this never happened. I wish he could have heard it. I know he would have enjoyed it. But it wasn't really for him. It was for everyone else, and I believe they will cherish it. I hope you will too. This is one of those times I feel deeply humbled to have this podcast. Episodes like this give the whole thing meaning. I really miss my friend Ryan.